HOA Karen called me a threat and reported me I'm a decorated Marine with clearance level 5. Have you ever been judged by someone who didn't know the first thing about you? Imagine coming home from serving your country, only to be branded a threat by a neighbor with a clipboard and a grudge. That's exactly what happened to Marcus Reed, a retired Marine with a clearance level so high, he could have walked into the Pentagon without a second glance. But in his quiet suburban neighborhood, one-woman HOA President Karen Whitaker decided he was public enemy number one. It started on a crisp Saturday morning in June 2025. Marcus, a towering man with a calm demeanor honed by years in conflict zones, was mowing his lawn. His modest home in Willow Creek Estates was pristine, a reflection of his disciplined life. Medals from Iraq and Afghanistan sat humbly in a display case inside, unseen by the world. But Karen, with her eagle-eyed patrols and self-appointed authority, didn't care about his past. She stormed across the street, her floral visor bouncing with every step, waving a crumpled HOA rulebook. "You're violating Code 17B!" she shrieked, pointing at a single weed poking through Marcus's flower bed. "And that flagpole is 2 inches too tall. This is a respectable community, not a military base." Marcus, wiping sweat from his brow, tried to reason. "Ma'am, I'll pull the weed, and I measured the pole myself, it's regulation." But Karen's eyes narrowed. "Don't ma'am me. I know your type. Shady. Probably hiding something. I'm reporting you." Before Marcus could respond, she spun on her heels and marched off, already dialing the HOA board. The truth was, Karen had been gunning for Marcus since he moved in 6 months earlier. His quiet strength unnerved her. He didn't grovel at HOA meetings or kiss up to her like the other neighbors. Worse, he'd politely questioned her decision to raise dues 20% last year without a vote, citing California's Davis-Sterling Act. That made him a target. Karen wasn't just enforcing rules, she was wielding power. And Marcus, with his crew-cut and disciplined routine, didn't fit her vision of a proper resident. She'd already spread rumors at the community pool, whispering to her clique that he was probably unstable or running some secret operation. Her evidence? He got packages from the VA and once parked his truck slightly over the line. Days after the lawn incident, Marcus found a letter taped to his door. It was an official HOA violation notice, accusing him of threatening behavior and suspicious activity. Karen had escalated her complaint, claiming his military posture intimidated her, and that his frequent visitors' old Marine buddies were potential security risks. She'd even called the local police, alleging he was a danger to the community. Marcus read the letter in disbelief. He'd faced insurgents and IEDs, but this was a new kind of ambush. Enter Sarah and Gwyn, the twist in this suburban saga. Sarah, Marcus's next-door neighbor, was a quiet paralegal who'd kept her head down to avoid Karen's wrath. But she'd seen everything: Karen's tirades, her selective rule enforcement, and now this smear campaign. Sarah had her own beef with Karen. Last year, Karen had fined her $500 for planting roses without board approval. What Karen didn't know was that Sarah had been secretly recording HOA meetings on her phone, documenting Karen's bullying and questionable financial decisions. "Marcus," Sarah said one evening, knocking on his door, "I've got something you need to hear." Together, they listened to a recording from last month's meeting. Karen's voice dripped with venom. "That Marine thinks he's above us. I say we make an example of him. I've already got the sheriff on speed dial." Another board member chimed in. "What about the reserve funds? You used them for the clubhouse paint job without a vote." Karen snapped, "That's my call. Focus on getting Reed out." Marcus's jaw tightened. This wasn't just personal, it was corrupt. The confrontation came at the next HOA meeting, held in the clubhouse under flickering fluorescent lights. Karen, perched at the head of the table, smirked as Marcus walked in, Sarah at his side. The room buzzed with nervous neighbors, many of whom had grumbled about Karen's reign but feared her retaliation. Karen opened with her usual spiel about community standards before zeroing in on Marcus. "Mr. Reed, your violations are a threat to our safety. I move to fine you $2,000 and recommend eviction proceedings. Gasps rippled through the room. Marcus stood, his voice steady but commanding, like he was briefing a platoon. Mrs. Whitaker, I've served this country for 20 years. My clearance level is higher than most federal officials. If I'm a threat, where's your evidence? Karen sputtered. You're intimidating. Your flag, your attitude. Marcus cut her off, holding up a USB drive. Let's talk about real threats, like misusing reserve funds, or bullying residents into silence. He nodded to Sarah, who connected her phone to the projector. The room fell silent as Karen's recorded voice filled the air, exposing her vindictive plot and financial misconduct. Faces turned to Karen, who went from smug to ashen. This is slander, she shrieked, slamming her gavel. But the damage was done. A retired accountant neighbor, emboldened, stood up. I've reviewed the 2024 budget. Karen's been padding fees for a surplus she controls. That's fraud. Another neighbor, a teacher, added. She fined me for my kid's basketball hoop, but let her friend build an unapproved deck. Karen's empire crumbled in real time. The board, realizing their own liability, voted to suspend her on the spot. Marcus didn't stop there. He handed out copies of the Davis-Sterling Act, urging residents to demand transparency. This isn't about me, he said. It's about all of us. The next day, Sarah filed a police report for harassment, backed by Marcus's testimony and her recordings. The sheriff, who'd initially taken Karen's call seriously, now saw her for what she was, a petty tyrant abusing her position. Karen's downfall was swift and bitter. The HOA management company launched an audit, uncovering years of misallocated funds. Karen faced lawsuits from residents and a criminal investigation for fraud. Her house, once the pride of Willow Creek, went up for sale as she fled the neighborhood in disgrace. Whispers followed her. The woman who'd terrorized her neighbors was now a pariah. Marcus didn't gloat. He mowed his lawn, raised his flag, and invited Sarah and other neighbors for a barbecue. Over burgers, he shared stories of his service, not to boast, but to connect. I've fought for freedom overseas, he said. Didn't expect to do it in my own backyard. The neighbors laughed, but they knew he'd done more than win a fight. He'd shown them how to stand up. What would you have done in Marcus's shoes? Was Karen's behavior just misguided? Or was she truly malicious? Share your thoughts, because sometimes the real battle is calling out injustice, right where you live.